Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the reigning world champion, the Terran from Team Liquid, the Frenchman in the blue. It's Clem, facing off against Cyril's greatest stunt double in the red, the Rocky Zerg. It's Solar, a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown, where Clem's relentless Terran aggression will go up against the Zerg player who's probably the most stubborn in the entire world. And speaking of world-class stubbornness, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button for once, and maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,587 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Solar already being corralled into taking that third base. Clem, every single unit, infuriating. Okay, let's be more generous. Robust in its usage. They have a robust nature as the SCV circles back. The SCV doesn't have to block the base. It just has to delay it for long enough for the Reaper to come across the map and potentially kill the drone. So Solar is kind of forced into taking that third base at the 3 o'clock position, and now we enter into the Queen flirtation phase, where the Reaper pokes and prods and plays hard to get. The Queens don't phrase it so generously, but at this stage, just making sure no Zerglings are slipping out. You gotta stay at the edge of the creep as well. If you don't, that's how you get Zerglings in your base, all right? And you're not gonna have a wall this early, and the Zerg, they're not sending their best, so Reaper just continually poking and prodding. It's not just to be annoying, it's to continually keep a tab on what the Zerg can be doing. And 97% of the time, rounding of course, it's just going to be a third base, some queens, and a handful of lings. But that other 3%, you're going to look very silly when a bunch of Zerglings slip around. Same time though, the Hellions threatening. The Zergling speed is done. Solar a little bit later on it. He clearly wanted to get his hatchery up before any other of the encyclopedia of shenanigans that Clem favors could come to pass. But likely not going to be running by, though occasionally will commit to it, just calling the bluff of the Zerg, who maybe didn't build enough Zerglings. Back at home though, Clem, third command center. And Cloaked Banshee's on the way, a staple. The 111 Barracks Factory Starport Destiny Cloud Fizz build, a staple of Terran versus Zerg for over half of Clem's life. And continues to be this day. To this day. And this day. Both are right. One's more right, but moving on. It allows you to pretty much shut down any form of aggression. There's literally nothing that can stop the Banshees. Roaches, Zerglings, Banelings, no. Some lucky corrosive vials might be able to catch it, but that'd be more of a lag spike than a reliable strategy. The Queens can maybe waltz across off the creep, but I can't think of anything that's more all in. And if the Banshees have Cloak, there's nothing left to contest them. Now, at the same time, Solar is building up quite a healthy drone count. He's at 55 drones. And counting. Roachworn on the way. More gases. Meanwhile, Clem, he's going to the gold base. And I'm not saying he's a gold digger, but he is violently mining his way through the rocks, which actually have like a shared HP pool here on Sandworm, one of our new proposed maps. And you can probably tell why it's named that. The sand is absolutely everywhere. Some find it irritating. Many find it coarse. But I'm not here to editorialize. But the rocks will be taken down and allow Clem to start mining with the SCVs, who very brave under literal fire, I will say. Well, butter my biscuit. The Hellion's coming across. So far, he's really into killing rocks with Hellions right now, which is relatively harmless. Meanwhile, Banshee's headed towards the main. Solar up to 72 drones, building 9 roaches at a time. Banshees, Queens, looking to pick them off. There's a 4th base on the way that the Banshees could start working on. There should be some Overseers nearby. The Hellions, though, darting into the net. Brenda! Oh my god, it was such an obvious bait! Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it today, Susan. The drone's already being incinerated. The Banshee's working on the 4th base simultaneously, but a masterful bait and a well-executed switch from Clem will net him 14 drones dead, and the Banshees are doing a lot of damage to the 4th base. It's at 20%. Transfuses should keep it going, but now it's clearly a target for Clem, who is well known for being the best in the world at target fire. So Clem now has the gold base. Here's the thing. He hit this all when Solar already had 70-something drones. He bounces back instantaneously. He's at 76 drones, which is more than before he lost 14 of them. And yes, it's a slowdown. It's a round of larva that has to be converted back into the drones. But it's a bit of a speed bump as opposed to a roadblock when it comes to the Zerg economy. Clem, keeping those units at home and... Oh my. Well. Having a bit of a tough time. The Queens! No! Well, that was certainly not ideal. The Queens taking the wrong path. And it doesn't just happen to work out for them. But instead, they're gunned down in the process. 84 drones, though. And if it kept Clem busy for a few more seconds for Solar, he's already got his hive nearly completed. 1-1 is done. 2-2 upgrades will start for Clem. Solar should be catching up on that front soon. He has 1,200 gas in the bank. Which, at this point... Ultralisk, 3 Vipers, Ultralisk Cavern, and 2-2 will run right through that stockpile quickly. No adrenal glands either. He actually ran out of gas instantaneously getting the upgrades. Meanwhile, Clem going to be angling towards the gold base. Solar trying to have one of his own. The siege tanks having a tougher time getting through the sand spires in the center. The Marine count is quite dramatic. He's at 65 and of course counting. Though both players are nearly maxed out. Baneling speed about to complete, and without it, well, those Vipers are really the most important part. He's draining the hatchery down the center. Gotta be careful not to overdo it. But the Baneling speed is done. The siege tanks on the low ground, not moving too many Marines up as he doesn't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place. Those Vipers are everything, but the hatchery at a critical level of HP. Still has enough for now, but just a few seconds on those Marines, and it could easily go down. So we're re-expanding down the center. That's still so many Marines. Both players still maxed out. Where are the Vipers? When the Queens fell, where were the Vipers? When the hatchery was brought low, where were the Vipers? When the counterattack was shut down, where were the Vipers? Without them, he will fall to this tank push, but the Vipers are standing by. Full energy gathered. The hatchery nearly dead. He needs them desperately. And here they are. The Viper's blinding cloud on the tanks. He can't see anything besides the corrosive bows raining down. Gets a double kill with the medevacs. But more tanks replace the ones that were lost. The Banelings were able to crash in. Chitinous plating is on the way. The Ultra is about to complete. And Clem is finishing 2-2. And the Ultras without chitinous plating are just paperless. Solar is holding for now, but the Rocky Zerg has to weather another couple rounds. Transfuses on the hatchery. The Vipers come in. Enough for a blinding cloud. Enough for 2 and 3 across the board. 5 out of 6 tanks brought out of the fight, and 1's not going to be enough. Corrosive biles on top of the tank line. The Ultra chewing through, and the upgrade difference is the only thing keeping Clem going. Another tank down the center. 2-2 is now finished for Solar, but he's retaken the supply lead. He somehow kept the hatchery alive with dreams and bubblegum. He MacGyvers his way into at least survival. And Clem, now he's up against mass Ultralisk. Solar still has 82 drones, but Clem is pumping out so many Marines and Marauders. Ultra's going to have an incredibly tough time maneuvering around this map, which has little nooks and crannies that look like they were designed by siege tanks for siege tanks. The double drop. The Queen's nearly out of energy, and many of them out of life. The Ultras can't do anything. We've seen Solar use Corruptors to great effect, but he hasn't had an opportunity to be inspired this game. The Parasitic Bombs take out more Ultras closing in, but they can't get through the Sand Spires. They try to reach over the top. They have to take the plus-sized entrance, though, down the center, and a Venn diagram of freedom will make this even more geometrically complicated. It's a sign. It's time to turn around. A double drop. Heads over to the east. To the north. Another drop. A medevac in the red, but the Queen's able to drive it back. Somehow this hatchery has weathered all of this. 4 Ultras on their own, trundling across the map. A Marine sounding the alarm! And the Ultras, that hero Marine, Big Gabe intimidating the Ultras into backing off. He doesn't want to just give them up for free. He's waiting for his moment. Another Ultra just cleaving through the drops. But he needs an answer to the starport units. They put way too many questions out there not to have one. The Ultras get behind the mineral line. Another drop, Clem. Starting to lose units on either side. Adrenal Glands will be finishing. He did notice in quite a timely manner. And now 3-3 is on the way. The map's starting to get more complicated. As Solar maintains 79 drones, both players with a bit of money in the bank. There's the Spire in production, and not for Mutas. The drop, oh my, the Ultra is feasting. 200 Zerglings and 100 Marines, wow, so far. 5 command centers on the way for Clem. Going to bring him into double digits, almost 1 command center per minute. More Ultras cleaving through. And without the Ghosts on the field, the Ultras have had nearly free reign. Only terrestrially challenged, but now the Ghosts are here. And no Infestors. Spire's about to complete. Another Viper on the way. Did he lose? Oh, he lost the Vipers. Going to be up to 1, which is better than none. A fake medevac drop. Working perfectly. There's no way Solar wasn't paying attention to whether he killed everything in it. Meanwhile, the Ultras, but the Ghosts are on the field. One of them dies right off the bat, which very cathartic for Zerg players out there, but there's a lot more where that came from. The gold base is mining for Solar, but again, these two, as they have several times over the last couple weeks, brawling. Clem has no money in the bank. He sunk it all into his orbital investments, and they haven't yet paid off. He eventually wants to cut down on the SCV count, but we're not quite there yet. Try to cut down the Ultras instead. Blinding Cloud on the low ground tank. Snipes come out, line up the shots, and almost knocks out yet another Ultra. But those 4 Ultras, remember them? Well, you're going to have to, because several of them just joined the Units Lost tab, and the planetary holds easily. 11 Corruptors on the way. This is that brute force style. Solar is not a subtle Zerg player, okay? He's not finesse oriented. He throws his weight around and he's got a long reach. But he finds himself going directly at his opponent more often than not. It's going to be Ultras and Corruptors. Corruptors to wipe out the Liberators, take down the Medevacs, and Ultras to do everything else, ideally. But building armor's on the way. Clem with a command center wall-offs down the center. Is he walled? Is that a house ghost? He's got ghosts. I don't think he has his rally point set for the barracks. 2 more factories on the way. Clem is mining out of the gold. There aren't more minerals at the gold. You just mine them faster, which is good and bad, because now Clem is on about 2 mining bases to Solar, who has 3 or 4. So the times of plenty have begun. Oh, the Mule Canyon, though. There's like 8 mules mining right now. The infinite money hack. If only it gave you more minerals. Maybe next patch. Next patch, you can drop a mineral patch with a mule next to it. Alright? And the mineral patch has a planetary fortress cannon on the top. That also hits air. And then maybe this matchup will be balanced. Ultras coming down from the high ground right into the tank fire concave, though. And another volley of snipes comes out. The musket line lines up and knocks down some massive Ultralisk. The ghosts, the numbers are getting too damn high. He takes out another base, but he loses half a dozen Ultras for it. A greater spire is on the way. Broodlords, Infestor Broodlord has been the answer for almost as long as Mass Ghost has been a thing. I'm remembering Nest T versus MVP from BlizzCon 2011, which is the first, or at least the most dramatic time in Wings of Liberty we saw someone decide that attacking into 35 ghosts with just Broodlords was a good idea. But it was not the last! And today is a new day. So like and subscribe and maybe look away at the appropriate moment. But Solar, so far, not leaning too heavily into it, and he's got plenty of money in the bank, though. Clem is catching up. The EMP hits the Medivacs and the Viper, but the Corruptors will knock the Medivacs out of the sky. The Baneling's just trying to squeeze through right now. Now, this is a weird fight, and there's also an Ultra. Thing is, there's plenty of energy. The Ultra just annihilated the snipes, imploding it. It's kind of, I don't know how the snipes do it, but those bullets, they're coated in plot armor. Just like Rainer's gun whenever it needs to shoot anything important. Not the Italian who doesn't play Terran ever, but the character that he misspelled his name after, apparently, is the story. Somewhat amusingly, his little brother plays Terran, so... But I digress. More command centers to wall off. A single Broodlord is in production. The Ghost caught out in front. The Ultras trying to close the distance. The Planetary goes down. But the rest of the army is still very much intact. Clem, the unit's loss starting to tilt heavily in his favor. Solar has mined 3,000 more minerals, but he's lost 7,000 more. The army values are similar. Solar's army is actually remarkably light on the gas. Well, might be able to catch some of the ghosts out. And the fact that he uses a single parasitic bomb, a bit of a waste there. But he's wiping out the Medivacs, which... Ah, the Broodlord! Charlie the Brood. Prince Charles. Lord of Broods. Wait, are princes and lords the same thing or different? It depends. I don't... Well... It looked like a campaign mission thing. One Broodlord timing attack. Well, he gives away the fact that he does indeed have a greater spire, which hasn't nailed it the second time. Ah! Spore crawler. Oh, and a fusion core is on the way. Clem putting it in the most inconvenient place to mine the last of that mineral field. Though I have my serious doubts on whether that fusion core is for battle cruisers or for Liberator range and Caduceus reactor. But here we go. Ultra's coming in yet again. Solar. He doesn't need to be cost effective. He just needs to be effective. And he's cleaving his way through the outlying bases. Thors are here. He turns around and lines up the shots yet again. Solar is banking everything on keeping Clem from mining from another outlying base. Unfortunately, he just lost 15 drones. That Liberator has 27 kills and counting. We've got our top spores on it. Top men? No. No. Well, Liberator gonna siege up the back of the base. Solar with 3,500 gas in the bank and not a single infestor on his mind. At this point, I think it's borderline negligent not to at least consider building infestors. But with this much, he gets the Liberator, which does not have advanced ballistics. He's just now getting Caduceus reactor. The map is pretty much cut in half. Solar melting through. trying to get the planetary, but... Huh. Well, things have slowed down drastically here. And still not a single solar. Unless this is some sort of challenge mission. This is where we bring out the infestors. It might not be enough, but you gotta try, right? Like, at some point, you can't win the war of attrition. Well, there's actually only one... Okay. We're in the bean... I didn't realize how quickly we were getting to the bean counter phase. The bean counter phase, of course, when we start clicking on minerals or lack thereof and trying to figure out exactly how many are left. And that's the thing. Clem only has one real base of mine. He's got like 12 mineral patches. These ones, 300, 300. He's got like one base, just like 15,000, 12,000 minerals, something like that. I really should know that. They're all the same, except for the gold bases with less patches. But Solar is mining from both corners, which puts him 3/4 of the way to a bingo. But he's still building ultras and lings, and I applaud his commitment, but not a single infestor. Thor's headed in because he was anticipating brute. Oh, there's no answer in the top left corner. Is it even worth it to go through the center? Yeah, building our Neosteel armor done. Planetary gonna rack up some more kills. 28. So we're just gonna long distance mine. Just chewing through the planetary, letting the banelings hit. He does have burrow done. Oh no, lost an ultra. The Viper out in front of everything. But the Corruptors have done a great job of kind of shoving Clem back into his turtle shell. The Corruptors and continually resetting the starport unit count, that is what's keeping Solar going. For better or worse here. And we see Clem. He's doing a planetary fortress push towards this base. And Solar's about to lose it. Though a couple more orbital commands. 9 orbitals. So that number might be reduced momentarily. The snipes. Going to drop the mules, going through the sand spires. And this is a bit of an awkward positioning for the ghosts here. Here come the ultras leading the charge. There were still some ravagers. Baneling's trying to crash in and interrupt the snipes. Doing a decent job thus far. Needs to keep the detection. The Corruptors are actually taking out every single one of the medevacs. And Solar has broken through. He's breaking into the buildings. But the ghosts are able to line up their shots yet again. 6 more ultras on the way. Clem trying to land at the base that they're taking our jobs. Oh, don't be... Oh. Well, this is awkward. Change of management here in the bottom right corner. And how many ghosts are left? Okay, well... 2. 2? Yeah. Too many. Whoa. Not a single infestor, though he doesn't have that much gas. The Ceral Fester could really turn things around, but it might be copyright infringement as well. As there only seems to be one Zerg player who reliably builds and uses them to such great effect. Everyone else tries it. Well, I guess Solar hasn't even bothered. Not a single infestor, but the Ultras are coming in for another round. The Ghosts are lining up their snipes, funneling through the ramps. There's still plenty... Oh, reinforcements coming around from the left side. There's a planetary to backstop. The Ultra's still chewing through. But there's so many layers of defense. It's like an onion of pain and suffering. And Solar unable to unpeel it in time. 845 lings, and apparently still counting. 30 ultras, 100 banelings, so over 1,000 lings made, give or take. 1 broodlord. 30 ultras, 50,000 minerals, and 15,000 gas. In only 25 minutes. A intensive, dramatic, brutal game. But Clem holds on. Honestly, if Solar was able to hammer that 6 o'clock base just a little bit harder, a little bit faster, a little bit better, and ideally even stronger, that it's a legitimate strategy that works against most people who aren't Clem. But I do think there was a bit of negligence there in not going for the infestors. A few infestors smattered in there with that one fungal that balance complaints are made of. And the reason we've nerfed fungal so many times... What? What are you talking about? You said fun gal! Shut up, Brenda. Sorry. I blacked out for... Solar, without any infestor abilities to make use of... Well, Neural Parasite might have been good, but... You have to keep up the aggression. So, it's from the observer perspective, as we sit here with varying amounts of clothing on, with varying snacks in our hands or mouths, unless we're Protoss, of course, we can say, well, Solar had so much gas in the bank, he's up against scouts. Why didn't he build infestors? Because from Solar's perspective, he was making progress. He was one good fight away from winning the game. What do I mean? If he denies Clem mining for like a minute at that base to the south, like it's not a back and forth, but he actually wins a fight and Clem has to sit back, he can just keep going and win the game. It's just, we can see that Clem has so much to fall back to. But Solar is so committed down that path. Yes, it's a bit of tunnel vision. But it is a valid strategy that looks amazing and almost and incredibly powerful right up until it doesn't. Right up until it looks like you don't know what half your tech tree is and you decide not to build it. Which I'm sure the comments will call him out on. And so did I. One infestor, though. There's almost no scenario that is not made easier by the use of one well-placed infestor. The problem is, using that infestor and doing everything else, that's the sticking point. It isn't because... I bet you right now, if you pulled Solar aside and offered him the amount of prize money for this tournament, the Monday Night Weeklies, by the way, which you guys are offering the prize money through me, as I'm trying to use about half a Patreon in order to sponsor tournaments, including this one, Wardi's Monday Night Weeklies. But I digress. If you said, do you think you needed 4 more Banelings or 1 Infestor? And Solar's like, no, those Banelings would have made the difference. Well, you know what? Obviously, he's better than me, so... But I seriously doubt Solar would say, yeah, I just didn't have the buddy or I didn't have the time. It's just very difficult to work it in when you're playing this sort of tempo-based game. That's why there's only one player who seems to do it. That's why we're watching the stunt double right now. But Clem with a solid... And he turtled up so fast, too. After the tank push failed and the Ultras came out, the Ultras were dangerous. But not deadly. Timed it out. Near perfect. Got exactly what he needed. Held the line. And now, we're on Amygdala. We filled time all the way up to the 3rd command center being almost finished. The hatchery already done. At the 3rd base, and Zergling speed coming online. Oh my god. The Zerglings freaking out. But to no end, at least quite yet. Overlord will spot 2 Rex. So he knows he's dealing with a 3-2-1-1, the double medevac timing. A very dangerous but less dynamic sort of early push. It's just going to be around 16 Marines, however many Hellions. How many did he end up building? Just the 2. And 2 medevacs. A classic tactic, but it still checks out. Yeah, those Zerg rocks trying to get in on the action. some sort of action. Lair is on the way. 7 drones, adding on to the 56 already produced. Solar going to have quite an economy if he's able to keep it. Double drop loaded up and heading out. Baneling nest on the way. Solar not going roaches this time. Instead, filling the Lingbane directly. Last time was just enough roaches for Ravagers. And then the Lingbane to follow up, but this is a much more direct response. The Queen's all together. Targeting down individual Marines. And the medevac straying a bit close. Queens bouncing back and forth. Double Evo chamber on the way, but Clem already has his 1-1 upgrades in production, giving him at least a minute lead. Potential upgrade advantage. Hydralisk debt is on the way behind. A very smart move. And the usual follow-up alongside the Lingbane. So, because he spread his creep too quickly, he has to take down the Zerg rocks the old-fashioned way, because they only bleed out if they're off creep, because technically these are just neutral Zerg buildings. Fun fact. And creep's creep. It doesn't discriminate, so... Baneling nest. Hydras. Just naming things on the production tab, but that's like half my job at least. A dozen Marines at a time. Clem pumping them out. The Octo Rex. He has no more just 61 SCVs, no more in production. Pure Marine timing. Solar making... He's going through the Zerg rocks quicker than expected, hitting the 3rd base with a counterattack, though his 4th base is under fire as well. The Queen's not much energy, but he's going to be forced to pull back. Simultaneously, the Zerglings getting into the 3rd base, hold position. Did he not kill a single SCV? He killed 1. How do you get in with 20-something Zerglings and not kill any SCVs? Apparently like that. The positioning and the micro for Clem, actually impeccable. So, Solar unable to undercut Clem's limited economy. And now he's going to have to deal with the army head on. It was going to happen anyways, but it makes it a little more difficult. Solar found one way to potentially break through, though investing a lot in executing it. More Banelings rolling up. 1-1 upgrades, a few seconds out. Solar's already expanded to the north side, so I think he's just going to give up this hatchery in favor... Oh my. A massive counterattack. He's putting it all on the line here to catch Clem off guard. There's way too many Banelings. The Marines, he splits, he stims, but the Banelings are going to roll through into the 3rd base. He's already opened up the depots. The Banelings are closing in. The rest of the army is coming back to defend as well, giving Solar time to refill. He's read him like a particularly predictable book here. The fact that Clem came back home to defend. Solar, he now still has 4 bases. Clem rotates around, realizing that Solar expanded over to that 9 o'clock position. The siege tanks are going to be a lot to deal with. But another counterattack has already been sent out along the right side. He switches sides. Well, both players switch side of things. The counterattack working in towards the natural, but siege tanks already in place to shut it down. 2-2 is on the way. A very important set of upgrades as well. Clem, once again, going to take out the 4th base. And he's at 185 supply. There's a lurker den in production. Hive is halfway done. Clem's still an existential threat right now with this army. And there's no easy way for Solar to engage down the center. Another counterattack is lining up. But he has to go all the way around to engage here. He didn't take down the rocks nearby. And Solar, the refugee drones, trying not to turn into GG drones, but even though Clem has taken so much damage, it hasn't been enough to stop the momentum of this attack. Marines loaded up yet again. Lurker Den is 80% done. The main base hive is done as well. But double drop comes in, and Solar not really responding quickly to it. Funneling in the Zerglings. The Banelings are going to make things more okay. And he saves the Hydra and takes out the Marines. Small but meaningful win there, as he doesn't have to rebuild the Hydras. Huge army down the center. Try to take down the rocks, but it's not in time. Solar desperately needs Vipers. He's going for the Ultra Cavern yet again, but the Vipers are going to be the difference makers. Again, the tanks are knocking on the door, and the Vipers are required to answer. They're gathering, well, one Viper. Gathering energy in the main. Clem, 142 army supply, nearly 100 Marines, bearing down on the new 4th base. The once and future 4th. The Baneling count so damn high, but the Marine splits will be there. He's even stepping onto the creep. It's 2-2 versus 1-2. Adrenal Glands is on the way. Solar. That's so many Marines. The Viper has arrived. He needs it desperately. He's trying to find it. There are no ghosts. There's nothing. Blinding clouds on several tanks. Marines forced to fall back further and further. The Hydra's behind. The medevacs are pretty much out of energy. The tanks are taken off the field, and Clem plummets down 30 supply. Solar holds. He rolls with the punches, and he strikes back with a vengeance. It's not over yet, but Clem, his army has been shattered, and Solar is catching up in upgrades. His army supply is dead even. The Hydras are trading shots with the Marines and siege tanks, and the Marines, the medevacs have no energy to heal them from their stims. A precarious position to be consuming, but that siege tank dangerously close. Knocks out another queen. Blinding Cloud on like a 3 HP siege tank. Hey, whatever works. Chitinous plating is done, and the Marines cannot penetrate the armor. That should be enough to turn it around, but so we're not looking to make the same mistake as last game. Clem has not built SCVs for like 7 minutes. He's still at 55, and has been ever since he was knocked down to that number with the Baneling counterattack. Full unit production. Wait, that's not a wall. The Zergling slipped through. The double drop. No Hydra lunge. +3 infantry weapons completed. I'm going to try to replenish the army. He actually managed to get a 4th base. But Solar, again, well, has built plenty on his side of the map. And the mass ULTRALISK just trundling through. Chasing down the Marines, cleaving through any left behind. And I don't think there's an answer here. GG. Clem agrees. We're going to game number 3. Solar holds the line. By that much, the counterattack. And it wasn't like the first counterattack. The fact he killed 1 SCV. That's disgusting. But Solar said, how about 20 Banelings? Which is a bit more difficult to deal with. Well, the decider. We're going to Killer's Mile. And Solar has been hanging with Clem. In fact, taking a couple of the series. Clem still winning more often than not, but a real contender. And it's such a rough and tumble style. It feels like, well, you're always one mediocre fight away from disaster as Zerg. But Solar really treading that line. But he keeps getting back up. And it's time for another round. I like the notable difference between players like Beyond and Cure as well. Clem clearly can do... Clem is playing in tournaments for like 16 hours straight on Mondays. Because as a legacy from the ESL Cups, which unfortunately are no longer active, but every Monday there would be 3 ESL Cups at different times for each server. Europe, Korea, and also I've heard North America has some players as well. But there is no region locking. You could play on any. It was just you play on that server at a decent time, like prime time, 6, 7 p.m. For that server. But what that would mean really was that Clem and Max Packs would play 12-ish hours a day. Here's the thing. Now between Wardi and TKLs and Pig hosting weeklies, and shout out to all of them, of course. We kind of have the same thing. So it's a matter of who can anyone stop Clem in the finals. Occasionally, Solar has done so. But usually it's a competition between Max Packs and Hero to determine who Clem will face and more often than not beat. Hero has also been burning the gamer oil. The G fuel, the GG fuel, if you would. These statements have not been evaluated by anyone. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, they play all day. The point is, Clem plays all day. Beyond Cure, not so much. I'm just pointing out players who've been playing against Solar lately as well. But Solar also seems to be able to go the distance, obviously. So, we will see. Clem trying the Marine Tank all-in, effectively all-in, because you cut SCVs at around 60, which is 3 base saturation of minerals. Doesn't give you a lot of leeway to tack up or expand further. The idea is you're pumping everything into the production. So that way you hit a timing that Zergs, well, ideally before they get Hive Tech. Solar got Hive Tech and the tides turned shortly after. Queens will eventually push the Reaper away. And allow Solar to get his 3rd base. Zerglings in the main. What do we got back at home? 1-1-1 for Clem. Looking like Cloak Banshee yet again. Reaper Hellion darting around. We're gonna see a similar, well, unless Clem decides to run by for no reason, which would not make any sense. A similar spread. Now, Solar has taken 2 different angles towards the lair tech so far. First, roaches. Roaches, Ravagers, trying to make sure you have enough units to kind of shove the Terran out of the way. Ling Bane is less about shoving the Terran out of the way and having more mobility. It is much more larva intensive. It has a much thinner margin for error, but you have more options if you have the APM to take advantage of it. Roaches are much more reliable, I will say. A lot easier to use, but a lot, like the floor is lower, but the ceiling is also significantly lower for the roaches, and even the rabbit. What the? Oh, sweet Tassadar. So, there's the roach one, lair on the way. Might be a little map dependent as well. Amygdala, you got space to work with, potential mobility. Oh, the Zerglings coming around, trying to grab onto those Hellions, but he buttered them up beforehand. And then moved on to the biscuits. Solar already at 60 plus drones. Double NG Bay for Clem. Working towards that 3 base macro. The Queens. Oh, the Cloak Banshees, though. Oh, no! Oh, leave it to the Frenchmen to find a new and creative way to slaughter the Queens. But the Banshee's just out of range. Just doing terrible, terrible damage to the Queens. And the Hellions lining up some shots as well. The Banshee's now taking some hits, but the Hellions come in. Another line of fire helping take out yet another Queen. And, well, better the Queens than the drones. But a bit lackadaisical there for Solar to not have an Overseer the moment his lair finished. Not sure why, but Clem held on to the Banshees for a while until he saw an opportunity. And yet again, the Banshee Hellion going to find success. Clem, just out of range of the Spore Crawler. The Spore Crawler is more of a, look, those are Banshees, as opposed to a actual method for killing them at this level. Clem gets away with a Banshee with 3 HP and 0 fucks. Infestation Pit is on the way, Roach. 9 Roaches in production. Roach speed about to finish. Solar, 71 drones. Not great, not terrible. Clearly doesn't want to just stay on the Roach tech. Baneling Nest is on the way. Hive has begun. But Clem already has a pretty healthy economy himself. 68 SCVs. He's got 5 Rex and building a second factory as well. So clearly leaning more on the siege tanks this time around. Hive working its way up. Solar sneaking a few more drones. Armory finishing about 1 second before Clem finishes 1-1 and he starts 2-2. +2 weapons a moment later. He actually didn't have the money for +2 armor quite yet. Another Roach hunted down. And he won't be happy until they're extinct. 2-2 on the way. Clem with a 30-second advantage when it comes to the upgrades. Assuming Solar starts his 2-2 on time. But the Hive will be completed momentarily. It has to be Vipers, right? Thing is, well, no, it has to be Vipers. It always has to be Vipers. The crowbar of Zerg. Adrenal Glands, Ultralisk Cavern, and 2 Vipers. Thank you. But here comes Clem. Racing against the clock. Not necessarily a do-or-die situation, but it is for Solar. He needs those Vipers. He needs Baneling speed. He has half a dozen things in production right now that he needs to survive to see finish. And with pretty much all of his Banelings being taken out moments before morphing, that's certainly not an ideal start. The Banshees. Oh, the drones. A Viper pops out right on top of this. Oh, Clem. Oh, he's just tearing through everything. 1 Baneling. Oh, it's a disaster. And remember when I said 1 mediocre fight away? Well, that was a little bit worse than that. Clem just walks up and kills him. Well, and it just kind of ends. All of that, the back and forth, nearly a 30-minute game, intense macro battle, and then Clem, headshot. Well, Solar just dies. 30 seconds out from anything that would save him. And those 30 seconds will cost him the entire series. Clem takes it 2-1. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Wardi, as always, for putting them on. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. How about I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. But thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Door, Mario Suit. Glad you still enjoy. And I hope I made your day just a little bit better. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.